training, the officer roles. I start off all of my trainings, and those of you in District 38, you are probably well aware of this, with Toastmasters mission and values. So Toastmasters International mission is we empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. This is why Toastmasters has been around for over 100 years. We make people better communicators and better leaders. That is the sole function of Toastmasters. The club mission. The club is, as club officers, the club is where you do most of the heavy lifting. That is your biggest interaction with Toastmasters. And the club's mission is we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. The best way I've heard this described is Toastmasters clubs provide a safe, supportive environment where their members feel comfortable moving outside their comfort zone. We give people that opportunity where they can try new things. They can stretch their boundaries. That is why the clubs are in existence. So as you go through this, always remember that. That's what the club's function is. Toastmasters international core values are integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And one of the biggest questions that is asked for people who see this for the first time is, why not use the built-in acronym RISE? It would fit it well in with our mission. The reason they chose to do integrity is because without integrity, nothing else matters. So as you're dealing with other Toastmasters, other clubs doing things, always remember, keep our core values of integrity, respect others, service. We're here to help each other, and excellence. And while we're on excellence, it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. You know, strive for perfection, settle for excellence. You will never be perfect. So just keep that in mind. Oops. So now we're going to start with the officer roles. And to help add a little bit of levity to this, each officer role, I am going to change my mouse ears. And why I do this is, A, I have an excuse to wear my mouse ears, but also remember, we do great work in Toastmasters. It's very important what we do, helping each other, helping ourselves. But remember, have fun doing it. There's plenty of other things you could be doing on a Monday night, and whatever time your clubs meet, your members can, plenty of other things. You want them there because they're learning, but having fun. We could be giving the best information in the world. If we're not providing a fun atmosphere to do it in, they're going to find the excuse to go elsewhere. So president's responsibilities overall. They preside over the meetings. If the presidents generally are the ones who start the meetings off. They get things started. They are overall in charge. All the officers are responsible for this, but they are the ones who really keep an eye on the Distinguished Club Recognition Program. They provide leadership in charting a goal. And some clubs, the DCP doesn't matter, I understand, but it is one of the best barometers we have to determine how well a club is doing. They lead and guide. A president of any organization, they are the leaders. They are the focal point of the club. They guide it. They set the agenda for the coming year. The club takes a lot of the personality from the current president, and they are a base camp manager. For pathways, as you know, the president, VPE, and secretary, they're the base camp managers. They're the ones that can approve level completions. So before the meeting, what do? They work with the VPE, determine who is earned educational awards. We want to celebrate that. We want to recognize them. For those of you who have received the educational awards, you've done the hard work. Yeah, it's time to receive the applause and get recognition for what you do. The VP, get with the VPM. Who are the new members? Introduce them. Make them part of your Toastmasters Club family. Make them feel welcome. There's nothing worse than a member joining and then being ignored. Plan the business portion of the meeting. Usually clubs deal with the business portion of the meeting at the end of the meeting, whether if your club votes in new members or if there's money to spend in the budget, anything that needs to be done, they plan that portion of the meeting at the end. And review parliamentary procedures. If there's anything that the club needs to vote for, make sure it's in line with Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary procedures, just so you don't have any issues. At the meeting, this is where the president does a lot of the work. Review the meeting agenda. Make sure that there's an agenda present. Make sure that most of the roles or all the roles are filled. And if there's roles that need to be picked up, make sure that you have people to fill the roles. Always have a plan B. This one is, I think the next one is going to be on all of them, and it's greet guests and members. Make them feel welcome. At any time a guest walks into your physical meeting room or your virtual meeting room, you want them to feel special. You don't want them then to be ignored. You want to say, this is what makes us special. We're a friendly group of people. And that's one of the key attributes of Toastmasters is we're friendly. Show that off in the beginning. Find out why they came to Toastmasters. Call the meeting to order. I stress on time. Every Toastmaster meeting should start on time. It's a skill that we learn because in the corporate world, I mentioned this in a meeting the other day of people who were in the corporate world. I'm like, if you said the meeting is going to start at 2 o'clock in the business, what time does it usually start? Well, usually people start coming in about 2:05, 2:10. We usually don't get down to business until 2:15. At Toastmasters, we learned we start the meeting at the appointed time, whether we're in the meeting room by ourselves. After a while, people will learn. They're serious about starting the meeting on time. They will start to show up on time. Introduce the guests. Again, a lot of this is just making sure the guests feel welcome. You don't need to put the guests on the spot, but just ask the guests to introduce themselves and why they came to Toastmasters. Something just basic. So they get up and they realize that they can speak in public, even if it's just saying their name. And for a lot of people, that's a big accomplishment. And make sure your audience knows when somebody gets up and says something, they get the applause needed. Briefly explain the events of the meeting, because if anybody remembers the first Toastmasters meeting, you're overwhelmed. What does this agenda mean? What's table topics? What's the grammarian do? Just give a quick overview of the meeting, maybe explaining there's the 3 parts, there's table topics, the prepared speeches, and evaluations. Toastmaster, they should be explaining each of these roles as they go along. Then introduce the Toastmaster of the day. Try and have a little bit of an introduction, a fun fact about them, something to introduce them to the audience, not just say, here's John Smith, as he's Toastmaster a day. Give some background. How long have they been a Toastmaster? What's some of their hobbies? Take 5-10 minutes before the meeting and email them and say, is there anything you would like me to explain? They may have a theme prepared for their thing that may lend itself into it. I mentioned this earlier, conduct the business portion of the meeting at the end. Give the date and time of the next meeting. For some clubs, they meet regularly, the same time, the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of every month at noon. Some clubs, because of consideration, they may have their first meeting the 1st Wednesday of the month and their second meeting the 3rd Tuesday of the month. But always reinforce with people when the next meeting is. The other thing is the clubs that meet the 1st and 3rd or 2nd and 4th, sometimes that 5th week messes people up. So always make sure one of the last things you say at the meeting is when the next meeting is going to be. Make any announcements that pertain, whether it's club related, try and find out if there's any district announcements. This time of year, when are the next speech contests coming up? Encourage people to visit the district conference. When the next training cycle opens, encourage them to go to training. just make some announcements so that they're aware that there's more to Toastmasters than just the club. And then adjourn the meeting, again, on time. This is especially important for business corporate clubs who generally have 1 hour for their meetings. You want to make sure that people get back to their desks on time. Where community clubs, sometimes they have a little more leverage, and if that's part of your culture, that's fine, but try and stick with the agenda as much as possible, because that's one of the skills we learn at Toastmasters is we learn to run an efficient meeting. Outside the meeting, attend the area and district council meetings. Not all areas have council meetings where the area director gets the officers together from clubs. If you do, attend that as possible, because one of your greatest resources as a club officer is getting to meet other club officers. Attend the district council meetings. Toastmasters has 2 meetings a year, the fall business meeting and the annual business meeting. Most of them are virtual now. Attend, you're going to learn more about the district, and this is where we vote for our officers and the budget and important business that we need members to vote on. And then also, it's coming up in August for the election of international officers. If you don't plan on attending the meeting, which is going to be a hybrid meeting once again, proxy your votes to the district director. Each club gets 2 votes. Use them. Learn more about the candidates. You have the option of either directing the district director to vote on your behalf for the preferred candidates, or leaving it up to his or her discretion who to vote for. And I can tell you from experience, the trios do take this seriously when interviewing the candidates. They interview the candidates usually for a half hour to an hour. They interact with them at the conference. I encourage you, proxy, make sure your votes don't go to waste. Depending on the budget of your club, you would need to assemble an audit committee to just make sure last year's treasurer had all the documentations necessary. Appoint a leadership committee. This is going to be, I'm going to touch on this in the second half of my presentation, but we elect the next set of club officers within the next couple months. As you know, most clubs are on an annual basis, and we elect officers usually in May or June, and the term starts in July. Have a leadership committee encouraging people to, take officer roles. And then schedule and share club executive committee meetings. There's several names for this: club officer meeting, executive committee, whatever your club calls it, that's fine. Just make sure your club officers are meeting regularly, whether in person, before or after a meeting, on Zoom, phone calls, because it does take 7 officers to run a club effectively. If you, as president, it can be either the easiest job or the hardest job. If you have good officers then you give good direction, it's easy. You just start and end the meeting. Where if you have officers who are struggling, or they're not fulfilling their role, and you wind up doing everything, you will get burned out. If not in the first year, definitely in the second year. So that's important. Make sure all your club officers are engaged. Any questions on president?
No, there are no questions in the chat box.
Okay. Next, we will move to Vice President Education. And one of the things they drilled into us several years ago, it's not Vice President of Education, it's Vice President Education. And what their responsibilities are: coordinate club schedule, make sure the agendas are ready for all the meetings, make sure if there's any special events, you have speakers for every event. Support the education program. Be a Pathways proponent. Pathways, we are all aware, has had its hiccups. Toastmasters is working, but there are enough resources available to help you get through it. You need to encourage people to go with the Pathways. You are Basecamp managers, I explained earlier. The president, BPE, and treasurer, and secretary are Basecamp managers. They are able to approve levels. Planned speech contests. Obviously, the clubs are past the speech contest portion of the year, but whoever is vice president education is going to be a successor. Encourage them to start preparing for speech contests early. Get people excited about it. Encourage people who in your club to visit speech contests. Get them excited about next year. Nothing's worse than going to an area contest where there's only one or two people competing. Well, I guess something worse would be you go to area contest and they have nobody from any other clubs has entered the contest. Encourage clubs to participate in speech contest. And then manage mentor program. As you know, Toastmasters, one of their foundations is Toastmasters helping each other. So make sure the new members get assigned a mentor. The most successful clubs, they assign a mentor to somebody as standard. They don't have to wait to be asked for it. They are assigned a mentor. They can opt out, but nobody's forcing them to take the mentor. But if you're assigning somebody and giving them a name, it's better because they're more likely to take advantage of it. I know from experience that a lot of people don't ask for a mentor because they don't want to bother somebody. For those of us serving as mentors, it's not a bother, it's not a challenge, it's something we enjoy doing. And it helps us become better speakers and better teachers. Before the meetings. Okay, review the scheduled roles for the meeting 5 to 7 days in advance. You don't want to wait until 24 hours before the meeting and realize, we have nobody signed up for roles. So in advance of the meeting, just review the agenda, make sure all the roles are filled or close to be filled. And that way, if you only have to look for 1 or 2, it's a lot easier to find than trying to fill an entire agenda. Offer support to Toastmasters who have got the roles. We have a lot of clubs with newer members, but Toastmasters has resources on their website. They have guides for almost every role on there that you can download. The log for, I'll use timer for example. There's a timer log that you can print out. It explains the roles, tells the timer exactly what to say when they're introduced to explain the role. It gives step-by-step instructions on how to perform the role. That is available for every role in Toastmasters. Send that to them and say, I see you signed up as timer next week. Here's the sheet. Please let me know if you have any questions on it. And then notify the club president, as I said earlier, that if any members are scheduled to get education awards, make sure they're recognized. Reward them for their hard work. And not only will it reward them and encourage them to go for more, it'll encourage other members. When you're in a club and 3 or 4 people are getting education awards, it encourages you to say, I'm as good as them. I can get that education award. So it builds success, breeds success. Okay, at the meetings, you want to maybe be talking to the members, make sure that they know with the level, if they complete a speech, find out if they're close to completing any levels, find out where they are in the Pathways progression, whether they may need to schedule a speech or 2. And especially as we get later in the year, somebody may be 2 or 3 speeches short of getting that next level. Help them schedule it and develop a plan to accomplish that goal. And as Vice President Education, when the president is not available at the meeting, you are the presiding officer at that point. So you'll start and end the meetings. And then answer any Toastmasters questions about the educational program. If you don't know the answer, ask someone who may. I can pretty much assure you you're not going to know every question, just know where to send the people and use their resources. Outside the meeting, in addition to the president, the vice president of education gets a vote at the district council meetings and attend the executive committee officer meetings and have an idea of where members are in their pathways progression. Okay, vice president membership. Their role is to recruit new members, conduct membership building programs, assist guests, and process membership applications. So with this, before the meetings, they make a list of any new members who have joined. Again, so the president, and they can be recognized and they can be welcomed into the club. If your club votes on members, you coordinate that with the president. I know many clubs do. Generally, it's just a formality in voting, but by people voting them in, it makes them feel more welcome. It's like they chose me. Have guest packets available. Again, whether, if you're meeting in person, get some, a couple file folders and get some Toastmasters literature. It's unavailable on the website. For those of you on this, within District 38, and District 13 also has access to our website. I'm not sure about your website, but there is a ton of material, marketing material on the website. If you have access to a printer, print out some copies. People like the hard, hard paper, especially in person. And I have mine in a bright yellow folder, because if you go home after a meeting and you throw it down on the dining room table, you may not remember what it is, but it'll keep showing because it's bright, it stands out. You're going to look at it more. Some of the things I'd like to put in the guest packet is, obviously a membership. That's a must, a membership for application. 2, the membership dues, a summary of if they join in March. Most clubs, if you join in March, they ask you to pay for March plus the following 6 months. So if you join in March, this is how much it's going to be. But have that sheet for every month of the year. It takes about 5 minutes, and the treasurer can help you prepare this. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to prepare it, but it is well worth the time, because you want to make it as simple for the members to join as possible. Also on there, if your club collects dues, whether it's Venmo, PayPal, let them know how they can transfer the money in there. And then also what I'd like to do is print out a calendar for the remainder of the year. That way they know when the meetings are. They'll go home, maybe put it on their refrigerator and say, oh, there's a Toastmasters meeting on the 15th. We want to be constantly on people's mind. And what I've experienced is somebody may come to a Toastmasters meeting today and they say, well, I can't make the next meeting. So this way the calendar, I say, oh, there's a Toastmasters meeting the same time next month. They'll be able to tell when it is rather than have to guess on that. Reach out to past guests and find out if they're still interested in joining. One of the things we like to do is send periodic emails reminding people that the club still exists, because people will check us out and it may not be the right time in their life. They may have just started a new job. They may be moving, may have family circumstances. I can come up with hundreds of reasons. A year from now, those circumstances may have changed. So again, always follow up with former guests. And obviously, if they say, take me off your email list, stop emailing them right away. But always remind them, you're still there. You don't need an email a day. Usually meeting reminders, that works. And we've had several members rejoin because they were still on our mailing list. Okay, at the meetings, greet all guests at the door and welcome them to the meeting. Again, if it's virtual, as soon as they come into the waiting room in the meeting, introduce themselves. Maybe for virtual, I've seen several clubs, they set up breakout rooms and they put the guests in there if they come in before the meeting or after the meeting. That way they can have a one-on-one or two-on-one conversation and learn more about Toastmasters without being overwhelmed by the number of people on the call. But if you're in person, have them wear a name tag. We encourage all of our members and guests to wear name tags during the meeting, but welcome them, introduce them around to the meeting. Another successful thing I've seen, this isn't really an officer role, but this would come under vice president membership, is each meeting appoint a reception chair. They'd be standing by the door or entryway, introducing people, getting them to sign in with their contact information. And that rotates throughout the, it would switch just like a role at any meeting. And then answer any questions that a guest may have. If you remember back to when you were a guest, you probably had 1,000 questions going on. So again, this is a responsibility should be shared among all the officers and seasoned members who may or may not be officers. So if you have several guests, try and spread out so every guest feels like they've had a personal interaction with a member of Toastmasters. Outside the meeting, meet with guests to answer any questions, explain the benefits. Nothing's better than the day after a meeting is shooting a quick email. Thank you for visiting our club last night. Our next meeting is blah, blah. And, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach me. That way you're having that personal interaction and follow up. Invite them to visit the club again. And the one thing I will say with this is whatever the member says or the guest says, go with it. It's like, well, I'm ready to join. Okay, have the exact procedure on how to do. Have them fill out the application, help them arrange the payment. If they said, well, I want to check out the club a couple more times before I join, I say, that is great. Because we want to make sure that we're the right fit for you and you're the right fit for us before you join. As much as we'd love to take your check right now, we don't want to waste your money or your time. So we want to make sure. Or if they say, I don't have the time for this, just remind them that Toastmasters has been around for almost 100 years and the club's been around X. We will be here. We will meet the same time every month. Feel free to come back. Even if you want to just visit from time to time, that's fine. So there is no wrong answer. I mentioned about helping them fill out the membership application. That can either be physical or they can fill it out digitally and then attend club executive meetings. And with that, you want to make sure that as a membership, what members are in the pipeline, what members may be leaving the club. Because as much as we hate it, members do leave Toastmasters for a variety of reasons. We want to make sure, though, they're not leaving it because they're not getting their money or time worth. Okay. Next is Vice President Public Relations. And these do light up. So the VPPR's responsibility, publicize the club, maintain the social media platform, keep the website current, and safeguard the Toastmasters brand and trademarks. Toastmasters I'll start with the last one first. So Toastmasters has gotten really protective of their image the last couple of years. So they have strict requirements on how they use their information. It's all available on the website. One of the primary things, especially with corporate clubs, is you cannot have your corporate logo and Toastmasters logo on the same literature. They must be separate unless you've gotten permission from Toastmasters International. They're very protective of the color branding. So I encourage you, check out the information on Toastmasters website. Publicize the club. So publicize the club. You want to make sure people know the club exists. And this is going to vary from club to club. If you're a corporate club, try and get information into your company newsletter, website. If your company's back to being in person, see if there's flyers you can put up on the bulletin board in the lunchroom or public areas. Another way you can publicize the club is leave Toastmasters literature in appropriate places. Again, you have to adhere to the company's policies. I'm not saying circumvent that. Another thing is encourage your club members who are earning educational awards, give them certificates, give them ribbons, have them posted on their desk. Encourage people to have conversations. If you're a community club, local, like Wawa, Sheets, that type of thing, some of them have community bulletin boards. You can put your information on there, get people encouraging to come. Social media, where LinkedIn has seemed to be the best results, where you have your members, they share the information on their LinkedIn posts. But Instagram, Facebook, all work well. One of the things you want to try and do an effective marketing is you don't want to make it all about your club. You want to post on there regularly, and articles you find on leadership, on communication skills, and then mix that in with your club meetings. That way people don't become blind to it, where they only see, oh, they're just doing about their meeting. You want to make sure it's something that they say, wow, I get good information from their posts. Keep the website current. If your club has its own website, or if you're on Free Toast or any of those that generate information, make sure that your meeting information is correct. If you've moved online during the pandemic and you've decided to move in person, make sure that information is current, that people aren't going looking for an online meeting or vice versa. And especially where a lot of clubs I've noticed have started meeting again in person, but at a different location. So make sure that the time and place is current, because there's nothing worse than having a guest show up to the wrong place on the wrong day. You're probably not going to get them back, and it doesn't send a very good image. So before the meetings, you want to verify the club's theme, meeting time, and locations are correct on the website. I just went through that. Order promotional materials for distribution by members. Again, the literature that people have, make sure that they have that where, I'll use Wawa, which is a local convenience store for us. They have community bulletin boards. If you hand them out to your members and ask them if they can put it on the bulletin board there, that helps grow, because you're not going to be able to visit every store. So this way the members can hand it out, and they can also leave it at their work or different places that they may encounter that you're not going to encounter. So you are supervising a team of other members, because from experience, the more members in a club, the better the meetings are and the more you get out of it. So at the meetings, you provide material, as I just said. You bring up any public relations items that may affect the members. Maybe encourage them to you do newspaper articles. If you're doing anything, like if you just had your speech contest winner, see if there's a opportunity to put in the local newspaper as just a little blurb, get people excited, especially if your club member has won the area or division level. Make a big deal about it. Spread it out. It's going to encourage other people to, search out your club. Outside the meeting, attend club executive committee meetings, and then monitor prospective membership inquiries. So this leads me to one of the issues is that if you go on the Toastmasters International website under Find a Club, you can send a message to your club or to a club saying that you're interested in finding more information on it. Toastmasters did a survey a couple years ago, and they said 60% of those inquiries, no one ever responded to. So make sure that you know where those emails are going. It can be set up via Club Central. It is the club's primary email address that these go to. make sure that somebody's monitoring them regularly. It doesn't need to be the vice president membership, doesn't need to be vice president public relations. It can be anyone who has access to that email account. Personally, for my club, I do it because I have access to my email at work, so I can respond very quickly. And the track record shows the quicker you respond to those inquiries, the better impression it takes and the more likely someone is to check out your club. So again, make sure somebody is monitoring those regularly. If you don't know who's getting it, do a test email. You can put your own information in there and see if somebody responds to it. So even if you're not one of those officers, I encourage you to check that out. Secretary. Okay, this is one of those positions that's going to vary drastically from club to club. So take notes at the meetings. The better clubs have the secretary take notes at the meeting and prepare the meeting minutes. Doesn't need to be formal. It doesn't need to be at 7:01. The president did this, blah, blah. You can make it fun. You can do a recap of the meeting, make it exciting, maybe comes a theme together. It only needs to be a paragraph or two. What you want to do is you want to send it to all your members and pretty much say, you missed a great meeting. This is what happened, and encourage people to come to the next meetings. Maintain the files. Most of this is digital now, where we keep the membership applications on file. Just maintain it and arrange to hand it off to next year's officers. Report new officers. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be electing the 2023-2024 officers for next year. So one of the roles is update that in Club Central as soon as the officers for next year are known. So try and do this in May or early June, because it's an easy DCP point, and it needs to be in by June 30th. If you wait much after June 30th, not only will you not get the DCP point, but your officers may lose access to Club Central. You can get it back by contacting World Headquarters, but it's much easier just to put the officers in right away. And as secretary, you are the base camp manager. And one of the primary reasons that the secretary is the base camp manager is the vice president education and the president cannot approve their own level completions. So you're there as a backup for them, but work with them. If somebody sends in a request, make sure that they're processing it, that they actually saw it. We're all inundated with the number of emails, so the more eyes that are on something, the better it is. Before the meetings, you want to post the meetings of the previous club meeting and notify the members that the meeting are available for review if they want to look at them. Make sure that work with the president to come up with the agenda for the business portion of the meeting, and order club supplies as needed. Work with the VPPR and membership and make sure that all the marketing supplies and everything they need are ordered if you're ordering from Toastmasters International. At the meetings, you want to circulate the club attendance sheet and guest book. You want to make sure you're capturing your guest information so that you can follow up with them. And you also want to monitor the membership, who's attending your meetings. Because if somebody misses 2 or 3 meetings in a row, that may be a sign that they're losing interest in it. It's a good way of, and then if that's the case, get with the VP membership and the president and just have them reach out to the member and say, is everything okay? We noticed we haven't seen you. Because it's bad when you're a member, you miss a couple meetings and you're like, nobody noticed I wasn't there. What's the point of me coming? Where if somebody says, oh, we've missed you for the last couple of meetings, it makes you feel welcome. It makes you feel like you are part of the family. And then some clubs, read the minutes of the previous meeting, notice any amendments, and record the meetings currently. Not every club does this, but if you do, that is the responsibility of the secretary. Outside the meetings, attend the club executive committee meeting, and you are going to be taking notes in the action items for those meetings. Anything discussed, and usually at the club officer meetings, each person is given a couple of action items. So make sure that you have them listed and that's distributed to especially the president so that they can know who to follow up with. And then again, in addition to the club president, the secretary can cast the votes at the annual international business meeting. So at the district level, it's the president and VPE. At the international level, it's the president and the secretary. And the incoming district director next year will be reaching out to the clubs to encourage you either to arrange to vote or to proxy your vote. So be on the lookout for those emails. Okay, treasurer. They are the bookkeeper for the club. And this is one of the roles also that is going to vary from community club through corporate clubs. But they're the oversee the accounts, collect membership dues payments. And I believe most of us have received emails that self-pay is very close to being implemented. So you're going to need to work with your officers and decide. I don't have all the details on it, but I believe clubs are going to be able to opt into this, or they can keep it the status quo. Like any changes, there's going to be bumps in the road. So you need to lead the discussion on this, answer any questions. If your club collects club dues, is it easier just to collect all the money and then transmit it? Or is it better to keep two separate pots? I know financial organizations sometimes don't allow companies to keep member financial information. So if they need to pay via, on the website, they need to set up a computer terminal where people can log in and pay themselves right now. So those clubs are really going to benefit from this self-pay. So again, it's something you need to assess with your club and find out if self-pay works for you. So you're going to collect the member, but as of now, collect the dues. The dues, the April 1st cycle is coming up very quickly. So make sure that the members know where their payments are due. Give them some time and as many different options as getting paid as you can muster. Whether it's check, cash, Venmo, whatever your club has decided, but be flexible. Make it as easy for members to pay as possible, and then pay the bills. Most clubs don't have many bills. Some are renting a room. Make sure that they're paid. If there's any special events, you're the overseer of the books. So as the treasurer, prepare a financial report to the meeting. This doesn't need to be every meeting where you say the club has $500 or $300, whatever it is, but regularly let your members know that there is money and let them know what the money is being used for. Nothing's worse than paying club dues and you don't know where that money's going. Well, I don't see anything. Make sure that they know the types of material it's being spent on and have goals for it. Collect and monitor membership payments. Even if you're at a corporate club, make sure, and the company pays for the members, make sure help facilitate that process. Make it as easy. You can generate invoices online if you're because that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks for corporate clubs is getting that invoice. You can generate it yourself by listing the members' names, but also find out which members haven't paid. One of the other things I'd like to do with the membership payment is for community clubs, give the members the option if they'd like to pay for a year in advance, because for some members, they just want to write the check for $100 and be done with it for the year. So Toastmasters has actually gotten a lot better with this, but you can collect the money for the year. And I think they're making changes, and they may have already made it where you can pay for the full year. But if not, just pay for 6 months, then send them an email and let them know which members want to pay for the year, and then they'll open up the second 6 months. I've done it several times. It's very easy and seamless. And that way people are done for a year and you're guaranteed members who are going to last the whole year. And that adds to the commitment level. Reconcile deposits and expenditure cash on hand. Again, most clubs aren't taking in that much cash and expending it, but just make sure that the numbers add up. And, if you're being audited by the club, at least the president and several other members should be looking at the books regularly just to make sure that the funds are being handled correctly in the best interest of the members. Okay. And we finally reached the end. The last one, Sergeant at Arms. I've nicknamed this a few years ago. They're generally the keeper of the crap. For clubs, they are the ones who, if you're meeting a person, they keep track of the club's property, the stuff that needs to be run, the gavel, the lectern, if you have that, any sign-in sheets, that type of stuff. And this is going to vary from club to club. A lot of corporate offices, it's under somebody's desk or they have a closet. The community clubs, it's usually in somebody's trunk. I know for one of my clubs, I have all of our material, and right now it's in my office boardroom, but most of the time it's in my trunk. So just keep in track, because you want to make sure that everything you need to run the meeting is there. One of the key responsibilities for Sergeant at Arms is make sure you have a backup. Unless you're 100% sure you're going to be at every meeting, always have somebody who knows where the stuff is and has access to it. Can you run a meeting without the material? Yes. We learned that skill as Toastmasters. Is it easy, or do you prefer to do it? No. So again, always have a backup, always have a contingency plan, especially if you know you're not going to make a meeting. You want to coordinate the meetings. And this is where, if you're in person, make sure that you have a meeting room. Even I've seen it in corporate meetings where they have meetings scheduled, but nobody ever signed up for a meeting room, and all the meeting rooms are booked. So make sure that you know how to book a meeting room and get with the vice president, PR, membership, make sure everybody knows where the meeting is going to be, unless you have a dedicated meeting spot. If you're in a community club, make sure that you communicating with the host of your venue regularly to make sure that they know your meetings are going to be this time. Even if you've been meeting, one of my clubs, we've been meeting in the same place for almost 10 years now, but we still check in regularly to make sure that they have us on the calendar, because when things become that routine, sometimes they slip through the cracks. Somebody doesn't put it on the calendar. So always check in every couple of months and just making sure that they're still happy with you, because you don't want to find out, well, you don't take care of the room, we no longer welcome you. We just want to make sure everything's okay with that. If you're meeting virtually, make sure that you have the meeting link set up and it is broadcast to the members and prospective members. So that's Sergeant at Arms. And then ensure meeting supplies are available. If your club votes at meetings, have the ballots ready. If in my club, we like to give feedback on 3x5 cards. Make sure the 3x5 cards are available there. At the meetings, arrange the meeting room and equipment. So usually the Sergeant at Arms is the first one in the meeting room. You want to make sure it's a professional environment, because you want to show that off to guests. If you're a prospective guest, you come into the room, it's disheveled, things out of place. You're not setting out that this is a professional organization. You want to arrange the tables and chairs, and this is going to depend on your club. One of the clubs that I visit semi-regularly, they meet in a library, and you never know how the tables and chairs are going to be when you walk into that meeting room. So you want to get there early. You want to arrange them. They do it in like a U shape. So sometimes you have to pick up and move tables, grab a couple people, and then the library will ask them to put it back a certain way. So it may not be the way you did it. but you want to make sure that you are a good guest. Set out the lectern, gavel, club banner. If you have a flag, put that out. Timing devices, everything is ready to go. Have a table and promotional material. Again, you're working with the vice president, PR, and membership. The thing you want to have the guest book, the membership packets, name tags, any promotional material there where somebody, as soon as they walk in, they can grab it right away. Again, work with the others and have them sign the guest book, assign them a name tag. You want to sit near the door because people will come to meetings late. Even if you say, we start 7 minutes promptly, they may get stuck in traffic. They may not be aware. They may be used to a corporate world where 7 means 7-ish. So you want to sit by the door and you want to have them, come into them, welcome them quietly, and then show them a seat where they can be. And if you're in a meeting in person, you may want to have a couple of reserved seats near the door where they can sit without making too much of an obstruction. Coordinate food service if you're eating during your meetings. If you're going to have a special occasion where you're going to have sandwich or anything, coordinate that. And then if your club votes on best speaker, you want to collect the ballots and tally votes. Again, different clubs have different procedures. Each meeting, they have a ballot counter. So this is just, take in mind what I'm saying during all these is, this is Toastmasters overall guidance. If your club's doing something differently and it's working, don't change it. One of the things, just go from my personal experience. Well, let me just get this done and then I'll go into my personal experience. And then at the end of the meeting, make sure the room is left in as good or better condition than you found it in. Pack up all the materials, all the stuff, and keep it secure, and pick up any trash or stray material. Again, we want to be good guests. A lot of places are letting us use the room either for free or below market cost because we are a nonprofit organization and we for the growth. So you want to be a good guest. You want them to be happy and say, oh, Toastmasters is wonderful. You can have this room anytime you want. So before I get into a couple of resources here, from personal experience, take what I said as guidance. Because when I was first a club officer many, many years ago, I went to training and I went, that's not the way my club does it. Our club, the secretary is the one who prepares the agenda for the meetings. They get the speakers. And I'm like, well, the vice president of education should be doing that. I thought we were doing it wrong. But then later I learned some clubs it is the secretary. So if it's working in your club, go with it. Try different things as long as it's working. If it's not working, try things differently. As far as resources for the club, this is on the Toastmasters District 38 website. There's a tab that's under resources, and it's club officer tools and member resources. I just did the top of it, but there's a tab that says with resources, they have all officers, and then they have different tabs for each club officer position. Take some time, look at it. It is open. There's no passwords or anything. So members of District 13 or any other district, feel free to take advantage of the wonderful job we've done creating our website. In addition to this, there's a ton of other resources at the bottom, which I've cut off for illustration purposes, including Fred's going to be talking on Speechcraft in a little while. At the bottom of this page, there is information on Speechcraft. So check that information out. So did we have any questions?
We do. We have a question from Mike LaQuasto, District 13. Do you have any suggestions on a hybrid setup?
Try different things. Hybrid is going to be one of the biggest issues facing Toastmasters over the next couple of years. In some cases, it does not work at all. One of my clubs, we tried hybrid and we had excellent technology for it. Several of our members work for Cisco, and this is what they do. They brought state-of-the-art equipment into our room. We found it didn't work. Another club that I'm with, we tried the hybrid meeting once a month in person, once a month online. After surveying our membership, we've decided to go back to in person. But on the other hand, I live in the Philadelphia area. I am a member of a club in Richmond, Virginia. Part of their membership meets in a library outside of Richmond. The rest of the membership meets online. It works. And I'm not going to say it worked perfectly. It took them a good 3 to 6 months of trial and error to see what worked and how it became effective. Because the problem with hybrid is you need to make sure that everyone feels included in the meeting. And I've been on hybrid meetings where I was online and I felt like I was just watching television. But through trial and error, through using different cameras and getting the audio right, I feel like I'm in that meeting room. It works really well. Corporate clubs, this is where a lot of them have advantages, because I was actually worked with several corporate clubs beforehand, before the pandemic, and they really did good hybrid meetings. They did that well. They had the setup, they had the infrastructure for it, where they had the tracking cameras and the large screen TVs. That really worked for them. So there's really no quick answer. Just, trial and error. Find out what your membership wants. As much as I hate it, if you go back to in person, if most of your members want to be in person, work with the members who can only do online on finding other Toastmasters clubs, but try different things. It may or may not work, or online may work for all. So again, there's really no quick, easy solution to it other than try and error, see what works and what works best for your members.
So there are clubs, Caron Williams from District 46 is saying that they have a great hybrid setup. When they do table topics, they switch back and forth between Zoom guests and guests in the room. That helps engage everyone. And I know that in District 13, Cranberry High Noon has been doing hybrid since pretty much the beginning of COVID. And Fred will be on later today. He's the division director for that club. So he might be able to add a little bit of comments later this evening on hybrid.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not saying it don't read what I'm saying is don't try hybrid. Hybrid doesn't work. A while ago I would have said that, but I've seen it work. Actually, my wife tonight's at a meeting and they meet hybrid. She's in person. Several people are on the guest. Again, they've had it. It took them a couple months to get it to work. So if your first couple hybrid meetings don't work out well, just encourage your members to pack a lot of extra patience for it. And just make sure your meeting facility can handle the hybrid. You have Wi-Fi, you have people with the laptops, make sure you have the setup for it. There are resources available to help you guide you through that. Okay. Any other questions?
That's all the questions that are in the chat.
Okay. So next we're going to go finishing strong. So it is February 27th, which means March 1st is only 2 days away. So we have 4 months left in this Toastmasters year. Finish strong. So I'm just going to give you some tips and some guidance on how we can finish strong as officers. From experience, every club is facing one of these 3 issues. If you're not facing any of those issues, let us know how you're doing it. But at least one of these, whether it's attracting guests, converting guests to members, or retaining members. That seems to be the biggest issue in clubs achieving distinguished club status, is getting to that membership number. What you want to do, and if your clubs in the beginning of the year, and if your club didn't do one, I encourage you, if you're going to, especially if you're going to be a club officer next year, is develop a club success plan. The information's on Toastmasters International website. I know District 38 in the past, we've given incentives for clubs to complete distinguished or successful club success plans, along with some other training requirements. I'm not sure if that's going to be continued in next year. That's going to be next year's trio's decision. But it consists of planning, diagnosing, implementing, review, and adjusting. I'm not saying it's too late to do a club success plan right now, but most of the benefit would be if you did it in the early part of the Toastmaster year in July, August, and September. At this point, if your club did a club success plan, you should be at the reviewing and adjusting it. Go back. It's designed to be a working document. Go back and see where you are. See what your strengths are, what you've accomplished. Pat yourself on the back. Say, wow, we've really accomplished that. What else do we need to adjust? Most clubs, when they fill this out, they set their sights on President's Distinguished. They want 9 or 10 DCP points. For those of you who don't know, Distinguished Club Program, it sets out a set of 10 goals for clubs to adhere to. If you get 9 of them, your President's Distinguished. If you get 7 of them, you're select. If you get 5, you're distinguished. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. There is resources. Most club officers are aware of it. If you're not, there's more than enough resources online. It's actually in the Club Success Plan manual. But at this point, maybe you're struggling to be distinguished. Find out which of these goals you can attain the easiest. And if you get more than 5, great. But concentrate on what you can get from now. Maybe you have a member who is 1 speech away from getting a level 3. That's a DCP point. So just find out where you are as opposed to where you started out with your goals. Readjust and review and adjust going forward. This is the most powerful tool a club officer has, and it's very underutilized, is the moments of truth. It takes a look at the club and identifies what its strengths and weaknesses are and where the growth can come. For those of you who have been area directors or read area director reports, the information in the moments of truth is very similar to an area director's report. And I'm just going to go over this and encourage you, as officer teams, to complete a moments of truth. So there's different levels of what the moments of truth looks at. First impressions. When somebody is first exposed to your club, whether it's your website, your social media, walking into the room, what's their impressions of the club? Are you setting off a favorable impression, or it's like, I don't want any part of this place. I'm going to go find somewhere else, or Toastmasters is a joke. I'm not going to be around it. First impressions are huge. Membership orientation. If somebody does become a member, how are they oriented? You just say, okay, here's your login, you're on your own, or do you explain that to them? Fellowship, variety, and communication. Are the meetings fun? Are they different? Are they stale and boring? Do your members like each other? That's one of the best parts of Toastmasters is most of the clubs I visit, the members actually like each other. We enjoy each other's company and communication. Are people emailing regularly? Do people feel in touch with the club? Program planning and meeting organization. Is there agenda? Is the agenda complete through each meeting? Is the meeting well organized? Do people understand the organization and why the meetings are run that way? Membership strength. The more members you have, up to a certain level, you can actually have too many members in a club. That's a problem that most clubs would love to have. but you want to make sure that you have enough members to make sure that your meetings are always vibrant and sending out good impressions. And lastly, achievement recognition. Are people's successes rewarded? So first impressions, and we're going to go through each of these individually. Again, I've touched on some of this during my previous thing, but make sure the guests they feel welcome to the club. Just try and put yourself in the guest perspective. Remember the first time you came to a Toastmasters meeting. Whether you went by yourself, with a friend, you were probably nervous. I don't know what to expect. What is this? Am I going to have to give a speech tonight? Keep in mind, guests are generally looking for a reason not to join. They're terrified. They're really stepping outside their comfort zone. Public speaking is hard for people. You want to give them as much reason to join because you're already fighting an uphill battle because they're looking for reasons not to come. So yeah, make sure that the guests are received warmly, that they're not ignored. One of my clubs, that meets in person, we know we can be chatting with people we've been longtime members with. If a guest walks in the door, our conversation ends right there, and then all the attention goes to the guest. They're welcomed, they're introduced. I touched on guest book and name tag several times. Make sure the room looks good. Make sure that when somebody walks in, like, wow, this is a professional meeting space. Make sure the meetings are a convenient location and people know how to get there. I've been to a couple of churches where they may have a classroom or designed for Toastmasters. You may have to go up a flight of steps and down a hallway. For the most part, they're well marked that you know how to get there. So just don't assume that everybody knows where the meeting is. You want to have signs, you want to have directions. Maybe somebody, if it's overly complicated, have somebody waiting outside to give directions. And then invite people to address the club. Just introduce themselves and give some feedback on the meeting, and invite them either to join the club or come back to the next meeting. Virtually, it's the same type of thing where when they pop into the meeting room, you want to welcome them, start a little conversation. Best conversation starter is, have you been to a Toastmasters meeting before? What made you come out tonight? That usually gets people started on a conversation. And then ask them how they would like to be addressed in the names, because some of them are using work emails. Just have them rename themselves how they would like to be called on this. Explain to them the protocol. Again, I'm going to use Zoom generically for any online meeting software. Explain them the protocol, that we'd like to keep ourselves on mute, try and keep the cameras on during meetings. Whatever your club's protocol is, explain it to them. Invite them to join in table topics. Get involved and explain what table topics is, and just encourage them to try it. If we all remember our first couple table topics, they weren't very good. So again, it takes practice. Again, and invite to address the club and join the club. Membership orientation. So is there a formal orientation process? And each club does this differently. Some clubs, as I said earlier, some clubs vote members in. Then once they're presented like a Toastmasters membership pin, a certificate, they're made to feel part of an organization. Assign them a mentor. Assign them someone who is going to reach out to them and work with them for their first couple speeches. Because they don't know where to start. They are overwhelmed, and Pathways does a great job helping people through their icebreaker speech, but having somebody to bounce that off of, somebody who's been there, who remembers how terrified we were during our first icebreaker speech, and let them know it's okay to be terrified. That's part of the process, and what to help them get through. I just helped somebody get through her icebreaker last week. So just encouraging people to do that. Explain to them how Pathways works. There's resources available to help people guide through. I will say Pathways, if you're an intuitive person, Pathways causes confusion. Pathways is not very intuitive. Toastmasters International is working on it. They are making it's a lot better than it was, and they do have plans to get it better, but it does take some working and learning how the process works. One of the advantages of people being comfortable on meeting software is we can do screen shares and we can walk somebody through how to select a path, how to sign up for your first path, and how to click through and go through this process. So work with them, walk them through the process, and then discuss with them, their goals for the club, how the club recognizes them. I know in District 38, when somebody completes an icebreaker, the district, if we're notified by the VPE or another club officer, we send them a card just congratulating them for completing their icebreaker. Okay, fellowship, variety, and communication. So, the meeting's enjoyable and educational. I said this at the very beginning of my presentation. We want to make sure our meetings are fun. We don't want people to feel like this is an obligation. We want people to say, well, I have Toastmasters tonight. I had a crappy day at work. I'm going to go there and I'm going to have fun. I'm going to laugh. We don't want Toastmasters to be one more thing you have to do. So we want to make it fun, but we also want to make it educational. We want the members to want to come back because they're having a good time. If we gave the best information in the world, but it was boring, they can read a book. They can watch a YouTube video. We want to make sure people feel part of the community. Regularly scheduled social events. In addition to meetings, as the weather turns nicer, schedule a picnic, a potluck picnic where everybody brings certain things. You have a common area, get to see people outside. When the holidays come around, have either a party as part of one of your meetings or have an extra special. Invite other members to birthday parties, that type of stuff. We are a family. After a while, Toastmasters does become a family. You want to be part of it. Participate in area, district, international events. Right now, we're in the midst of contest season. Encourage your members to learn more about district activities. Come to speech contest. Come to, encourage them. The international conventions is in the Bahamas. Worst that happens is you have a nice beach vacation. Encourage them to look at options outside of the club. Encourage them to visit other clubs. I can honestly say if it wasn't for speech contest, I would not have been district director last year. And I've never competed in a speech contest. They were advertising, the area director back when I was a newer Toastmaster came to our club and was talking about the speech contest. It was going to be the following week. I'm like, why not? Let me go check it out. And because of that, I got involved with some of the district leadership and who helped me along my Toastmasters journey. And the catalyst for that was attending a speech contest. So there's more to it. Inter-club events. Tonight's a perfect example. We have District 13 and we have District 38 putting on a joint training. You can have joint meetings. If you're a corporate club, several corporate clubs have different branch offices. I don't want to use their name, but there's one international financial services group that has offices in Canada, England, and then 2 locations in the United States. They regularly have joint meetings where they have a table topics contest where people from each of the offices compete against each other. It's a fun way of keeping those organizations interconnected. But if you're a member of a community club and then there's another community club maybe down the street, down the road, across the city, encourage them to have joint meetings where you can compete against each other, have fun, share ideas. So encourage joint meetings. Club newsletters, if your club has a newsletter or meeting minutes, that type of thing, just highlight the different activities of the club. Pictures of members with their permission put on social media, make sure that they feel part of the organization. We touched on this several times, is greet guests warmly. Guests are your future members. And if you think about it, every member of leadership, from Toastmaster International President down to the new club officer, at one time they were a guest. So the guests are the future leaders of Toastmasters. Make sure that they feel warmly welcome. Program planning and meeting organization. The agenda. Do you have an agenda for the meeting? Or people know what their roles are ahead of time? And is it sent out? Send it to the members a couple days beforehand, just in case, oh, I signed up for a speech. Suddenly I found out that I have a conference with my son's teacher or something, they can't make the meeting. So make sure it's out, and so people can't fill the roles, or if you need roles filled, make sure it's done in far advance as you can. Make sure that the members are prepared, they know what their role is, they're comfortable with how to do it, that they're working on pathways projects. Again, I'm trying to choose my word correctly here. It is strongly preferred that all members present from pathways projects, but one of the nice things about Toastmasters is if you're working on a project for work or something and you want to do a dry run at Toastmasters, most clubs are welcoming to that. You don't want it at every meeting, but occasionally it is a nice benefit of it. But a lot of those can be fit into pathways programs. So just make sure that members are completing the pathways. It is designed the way it is for a reason, to build upon success. Make sure the meetings begin and end on time. Have creative table topics, have them fun. And remember, with table topics, the idea is not to stump the table topics participants. It's to give them a canvas to paint a word picture on. Evaluations. This, for long-term members, this is the most beneficial part of Toastmasters, but also one of the reasons a lot of people leave Toastmasters for the evaluations is you want to give positive but helpful evaluations. I want to scream every time I hear somebody give an evaluation, oh, that was a fabulous speech, I wouldn't change a thing, it's perfect. No, there is always room for improvement or a different approach to giving a speech. It takes practice learning that skill, and evaluations are one of the most transferable skills we learn at Toastmasters. If you're in any sort of supervisory position, you have to give evaluations. You need to be able to do an evaluation where you can ask people to improve upon themselves, but not come from a negative standpoint. The best word I've heard is empowering evaluations. When I've been giving evaluations, the best ones I have are, as they're giving the evaluation, I'm rewriting the speech in my head saying, that's the way I should have done it. So again, you want to give people ideas, and you want to encourage members and to give evaluations and work and make them tough, but not nasty. Membership strength. You want to make sure your club has over 20 members. And this number wasn't picked at random. The reason they selected 20 is to have a good, effective meeting, you need to have about 12 to 13 Toastmasters at the meeting. And by having 20 members, it's going to get people who cannot make it for work reasons, family reasons. Not every Toastmaster is going to attend every meeting. So if you have 20, there's a good likelihood you're going to get your 12 to 13. So you're going to have speakers, evaluators, facilitators, the timer, grammarian, Toastmaster, all the necessary roles to run an effective meeting. Make sure the members are retained. And I don't mind losing members if it's the right reason. Whether they have family obligations, they have a new child, they move out. I have no idea. The ones that bother me are the ones who stop coming because they feel they're not getting the benefit of it. Whether it's financial or, in more cases, it's more time. It's like, it's not worth my time to go. So make sure that your members are being retained. And the ones who left, find out why they're leaving and see what we can do to change that. Promote the club in your, company or the community. Make sure your meetings are variety. It's not the same old boring meeting with the same speakers, same evaluators. I've been to clubs like that where it's the same people. It's like, why do you keep coming back? I've heard all their stories before. Toastmasters, recognize Toastmasters who sponsor new members, who bring their friends, who talk it up, and then have regular membership building programs. Achievement recognition. Again, you want to reward people for doing good things, for stepping outside their comfort zone. And we clap because for people just getting up and giving a speech, that may be stepping out of their comfort zone. That may be a big deal for them. But as they progress through pathways, give pins, give badges, give ribbons. When they win the speech contests, make sure that the club knows that, make a big deal about it, because it is a big deal. Show off the trophy, even if they, ship the trophy, have them bring it in and present it to them. You want to encourage other people to stretch themselves. Things to do, for the remainder of the year. Club officer training, we're pretty much at the end of that rope. But as we move into next year, if you're going to be a club officer training starts in June. Get it in early. Encourage other members to take on club officer role and come to training. Work with Moments of Truth. I have Moments of Truth incentive that I didn't update that slide from last year, but work with the Moments of Truth with the rest of your club officers. Speech contest. Again, it's a little late for getting through the speech contest, but it's not too early to start planning for next year's speech contest. Distinguished Club Program. Find out where you are, where you need to be. Make sure as the April dues recycle, your members renew. And attend the district conference. I know District 38's conference is in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, April 22nd and 23rd. I'm not sure when District 13's is, but it's a great opportunity to meet other Toastmasters from around your district. And then planning for next year is prepare incoming officers. You need to recruit them, mentor them, and then have the elections for them. It's not too early to start recruiting. Find those people in your Toastmasters. They may have just joined. We've had good success with getting newer members who you can tell right away they get Toastmasters, encouraging them to become officers next year. And just to get involved and then just work with them. Make sure you submit the club officer list by June 30th. And lastly, explore district leader opportunities. We're always looking for area directors. And out of all the positions I've held in Toastmasters, my favorite job was area director, because we got the opportunity to work with clubs and really get to see the growth in